Recording in progress, Steve. Oh, wait, I forget the got these thingies. Let's change the name. All right. What are we? May 7th, take one of podcast two. We're
Season one, episode two.
season one, episode two, May 7th, 2026. Here we go, Steve. How are you?
I'm great, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We spent about 40 minutes trying to do some stuff with the audio because we don't have that fancy schmancy soundboard guy with us yet, but it'll come.
Yeah, and we actually had some people listen to the first episode, so thank you for all of you who are back for an episode two. We haven't scared you away yet, and we'll try to continue to keep this short and to the point. So today, we want to welcome you, and we're going to get to know our co-host Allan Abrigo a little bit today. So I'm going to interview Allan, and we're just going to start by Allan. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who's Allan Abrigo?
Who is Allan Abrigo? Well, you know what? We've gone through like right now. I'm very blessed. A couple of things I'm doing is we've talked about that. I have a real estate business, but what really drives me a couple of charities and community work I've done. Like one big thing on my heart is I'm the treasurer for the Rise Support Center here in Markham, formerly known as Markham Stovall Prices Pregnancy Center, part of Pregnancy Care Canada. There are a lot of things we might be talking about that on the podcast going forward because that's on my heart, and there's a few things we can do with that to help it out. I'm also on the committee for the Markham Prayer Breakfast, and I teach some small groups at a church here in Markham called The Bridge, and one of them is helping people manage their money better. And so I'm involved in a couple of ministries there, and so that's who I am. I have two kids that are 20 and 23, and they're going to school in Ottawa. And one's going to be in school a little bit longer, the older one actually, than the younger one. He's going to finish. So a little bit about me, and we all live in Markham here, so that's who we are.
So you told me like what you do.
Yeah.
You didn't really tell me who you are. So like, how did you get to like here we are on May 7th, 2026? You're like this, I don't know, however old you are, doesn't really matter, but you're like in the middle of your life probably. And so a little bit more about you. Like who's Allan when he's not working or doing charity work or going to church or teaching at church? Who's inside that person of you?
That's a good question. Who is that person? But for me, I look at ways to grow in terms of myself. Like I know in the last little while, especially we talked about in our last episode, so a little bit of a teaser there. If you haven't seen the previous episode, you gotta check that out. You know, we've gone through different stages of our life, Stephen, and what I have realized is the more that we've become our true versions of ourselves and seek that through gentlemen like yourself and being part of a little bit of a group that really wants to encourage me to find that. It's a work in progress. I'll tell you, Steve. I want to be there for my family, who are near and dear to me. Even extended family. I shouldn't I have three sisters, and I love hanging out with them and growing together as well with them. They're in Montreal, and two of them, and one in California. But I try to just be there for us to be close and to live life together and go through the ups and downs because it's not always easy. But I like being there for others, and then extended to that. That's why I mentioned, I guess, all those organizations is I want to do that for other people that I just come across in my walk of life. You know, I do real estate, like I said, and a couple of different organizations. But my goal is just, hey, how can me being myself help me and also help these organizations and the people that are part of it?
So we named this podcast Progress Over Perfection. What is that? When you think about that, what does that mean for you? And what comes to mind for you?
Well, one of the stories came up when we were just, our big 10-minute preparation for this podcast is something I did when the kids were what, 4 and 5, and they were going to the YMCA taking taekwondo and swimming lessons, and I was always hanging around talking to people and tried to keep myself busy. And then there was a spin class that I just did probably on a regular basis. Maybe I missed a couple while the kids were in their programs, but I participated. And then because the YMCA is a volunteer organization, the person who was leading that class was going to go on maternity soon, and they needed someone to take it over. Never had any previous experience of teaching any sort of gym class, and I probably didn't look like I was in the shape that I should be teaching any kind of activity like that, physical activity. However, just because, like I said, if I can contribute, the class was getting a little bit smaller, and maybe that had something to do with, the teacher at the time had, other things on her mind, and excited for her to have her first kid. But I said, look, some people need help. I've never done it before, but let me give it a shot, give it a go. And looking back, I think there was a good leadership lesson that was learned there. So when I took it over, there's like 20, 25 bikes in this room. There was probably 3 or 4 that were going while I was getting trained, the 1 or 2 times that I was getting trained. And I'm like, all right, there's 3 or 4 that are regulars. I got to make sure that I do a great job of keeping them here, because that's why they're here. Let me get to know them, find out what they want, how they envision the class. So me being a people person, let me keep these people happy. Lo and behold, when I took over, and a couple weeks in, slowly but surely, one of them dropped out. Another one kind of was coming in and out. So my big class of 4 started dwindling down to 2. And I was scared, well, I was going to be there teaching myself. And I think a light bulb went off, and I said, hey, look, this is somehow not working. I don't know if that's how I processed it, but I mean, let me try something different. Let me try being a better version of who I really am and what I envision this to be, instead of being a people pleaser. And maybe I don't look like it, but I started like pushing people and actually yelling and and getting really hard on people, and maybe to push themselves to a level that they never thought they can get. And yeah, I definitely used a loud voice for that. And I became known as the spin class yeller teacher. And the crazy thing is, when I tried to, when I attempted that, and instead of being a people pleaser and give what I thought people needed so they can, make this time worth their while, within a month, close to it, the room started getting full. And really shortly thereafter, you needed to get to the YMCA early, get your ticket so that you could get one of the 2025 bikes. And yeah, there would be a wait list to get on. So I was excited, and I said, look, this is a lesson for me that, hey, yeah, you want to be a people pleaser and try to help people out, but you don't want to give people, as a leader, you got to understand, hey, how can you help and get them to a level that maybe they never even envisioned for themselves, and do that for them and guide them that way.
So that's a great lesson for all of us. And I think what I see there is authenticity. You were trying to be someone you weren't. You were trying to, cater to other people, and then you decided just to kind of be your natural self. And that leads me to a discussion we had several years ago when you were thinking about going into real estate, and kind of a late career change for some people. Like you were into your 40s, and you were thinking about, maybe I should go do real estate. And then tell me how that kind of played out, and how that kind of lesson kind of, and how you've kind of gone about that your own way, and how you're building that business. And kind of the same lesson to me, I think, when I think about the parallels with, being your authentic self and doing it your own way.
Yeah, this wasn't in our rehearsal, Steve. I'm gonna go take us off on a tangent, which we're gonna do to each other many times here, but something just popped into my head, and we've definitely talked about it in our LIG group at one point, is that we just have to be attentive sometimes to the angels that God puts in our lives that talk into us. That sometimes they're going to say things that we never thought of, and we just have to be able to discern when God's talking to us. And this was 2021. I was going through a couple of health challenges, so I wasn't able to go to the office with the pandemic and stuff going on. My business partner at the time realized that I don't know our smaller sized company of hardware, um, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was uncertainty in terms of getting product in. There was uncertainty in terms of losing different staff members because it was a tough time keeping staff, and there was uncertainty in terms of who were we going to have as clients after all of this stuff because there was a lot of question marks. And my biggest role for the company was generating sales. And, not only were we not allowed going to many places, I couldn't get out of the house because of my health challenges. And so my business partner, Rocky, shout out to Rocky, yo, Rocky. Um, he just said, look, Alan, yeah, we're going to try our best with the hardware thing, but something came over me and said that I want to tell you to get a plan B. And for me, knowing that you love talking to people, you love walking alongside of them and getting, you know, helping them in whatever they may be. I found out that the real estate course here in Toronto is all online at the moment. So because you have to stay at home because of those challenges, why don't you set yourself up with a plan B and just get your license? You might never ever have to use it, but you know, at least we don't just depending on the hardware store, just in case something happens. And I said, okay. After a little bit of quiet time that we definitely know about, Steve, we've been challenged by another shout out, Denis Frappier at AMJ Campbell. Um, Always challenging us to have quiet time. So after a few days of quiet time, I was pretty confident that okay, God was talking to me through somebody, and let me go do this class. Even though I never thought of it before, like you said, I was in my late 40s. Yeah, time for a career change, but okay. Sometimes God talks to us at different times, and I've been loving it. Like, you know, uh, when Word Dog got out with our sphere, including people in my kids' soccer rep programs, some of the programs I've done at church and in the community, I was able to help a lot of people. And I think the first couple was because I've been doing things at church in terms of teaching people about money. I helped a couple of young couples get their first condo or homes because they had previously journeyed with me in getting prepared to save up for a house, and this was the next step of progress. And I would have never have even put those two things together. Like it's just crazy how when God has such a better plan than I could ever come up with on my own.
So that's amazing. And we're, believe it or not, we're like almost out of time here. So, one last thing. One
Yeah.
last thing you want to tell our listeners about you and about what they can expect over the next several weeks and months as we continue to venture into this Progress Over Perfection project.
Yeah, and then over the last, I don't know whether 2 weeks since we put this out, and we totally blew past our viewership goal of 11. And thank you to everybody out there. I think we had over 140 views. We had 28 subscribers. Wow. I didn't even know we knew 28 people. Um, but you know what? I was always like, okay, what's the call to action here, Steve? I think that's the biggest thing. And I said the call to action, and we're always progress over perfection. First thing that popped into my head is, hey, Steve and I were there for each other. We walked, we shared, and we did a lot of that in person. But the world's changed. We want to put this out there and say, hey, if you are out there, I know we cater this to them, but like anybody out there, and you just want to have a vulnerable conversation without any judgment and just kind of lay things out. And we might not have the answer the first time, but the more we have these conversations together, because Steve and I have connections in different community outreach services and even with our LIG group, we might get you to take that little first step that works for you. And we don't know what it is, right? We don't have all the answers, Steve, but we love just walking alongside it with you, opening up our hearts to God and listening and just sharing what comes to us. And we're hoping that that can help people out there just make a small positive step in the right direction.
So that's great, Allan. Thank you very much. And we look forward to talking to everybody in another week or two. So thanks, and have a great rest of the week.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.